Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'da. Habati fillah. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala bless us all, forgive us all, guide us all, and preserve us all. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala bless us all with fiqh fi deen, bless us with ilm al-naf, rizqan tayyib wa amalan mutaqabbilan. Allahumma inni as'aluka hubbuk wa hubba man yuhibbuk wa hubba li kulli amalin ballaghani hubbuk. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala bless us all with his love and to love what he loves and to love whomsoever he loves, and to love those duties that he loves. In general, the deceptiveness of the dunya. And Imam An-Nawawi, rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatin wasi'ah, Imam An-Nawawi, he entitled a chapter in his book Riyadh al-Salihin called Bab Fadl al-Zuhd fi Dunya wa Hath ala Taqallul Minha wa Fadl al-Faqr. Imam An-Nawawi, he entitled a chapter in Riyadh al-Salihin called the chapter of the superiority of zuhd, of asceticism, meaning kind of to remove the dunya from your heart, the love and the obsession with the dunya and the materialism and the consumerism, removing that from your heart. Zuhd, asceticism fi dunya, وَحَثْ عَلَى تُقَلَّلُ مِنْهَا, and the encouragement to take very little from this worldly life, and the superiority of poverty. That's a powerful chapter that Imam An-Nawawi entitled in his Riyadh al-Salihin. It shows us how the Salaf al-Salih and those who followed their footsteps, وَمَنْ يَتَّبِعْهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ لِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ, those people who follow them in righteousness until Yawm al-Qiyamah, meaning Ahl Sunnah will always be present. That those who follow their sabil, that they all spoke about how the dunya, this worldly life, can be deceptive. And na'am, we are coming to the end of this most beautiful time. And when you think about it, think about all the things that people are doing, especially when you go out into the world. For me, I'm living in a very far place right now. And when I go into the cities or the small towns, and especially the bigger cities, you know, people are so busy with the dunya. They're so busy with consuming and consumerism, because a lot of the people you see out there, there's a lot of wealthy people who can weather the storm of the coronavirus and weather the storm of being isolated. Isolation for them is no big deal. It's just family time. They go to the park. They go do this. They have money. They can go spend, and they do home projects. But they're not fasting lillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not going through the hardship that the believers go through, the taqallul, if we're practicing our deen, a little bit that we're taking from the dunya. Because just think of it, all this day, these days are longer, and you're not getting food, you're not getting drink, so you can devote your time, if you're wise, to that which is good by reading the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making adhkar, supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have this unique and blessed opportunity. And it is and the asl of fasting is a type of restraint. It's restraining. It's restraining from taladdud fi dunya. It's restraining from the deliciousness of the dunya, from the food and the drink, and from the akramakum Allah, from the relations between spouses, and all the other excellent things in the dunya that we love. So it's a restraint. And so that should train us for all the other things in the dunya, for holding ourselves back as the Salaf did. And I was just reading some fawaid about our Salaf al-Salih and how they were during Ramadan. A whole, to say the least, a whole nother level. even those of us who consider ourselves Salafi, trying to follow the path of the Salaf, trying to follow the methodology of the Salaf, trying to follow the minhaj of the Sahaba to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. Wa alaykum salam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless our brothers and sisters in the Netherlands, I mean, and everywhere, I mean. So those who are trying to follow the Sabil al-Mu'mineen, the path of the Salaf as-Salih, and trying to restrain themselves. I was listening to or reading about how Imam Shafi'i was, and how much of the Quran, how much in a day, khatama Quran biyom, the whole Quran, reading the whole Quran in a day, or how many times during Ramadan they do. For us, we make a big deal if we get 5 pages a day in Ramadan, and some of us less than that, some of us more than that. But the point is, compared to the Salaf and how their asceticism and how they devoted themselves in Ramadan to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we do very little. If we were to put on ourselves on a beret, Ridwanullahi alayhim. So Imam an-Nawawi, this beautiful title, Fadl Zuhd fi Dunya, because it's superior to be, it's a greatness to be not caught up in the dunya. Think about all the sins that you do, okay? So I'm thinking of my sins, but I'm just directing this to you as well. All the sins that we do, most of them have to do with some aspect in our lives where we crave the dunya. We can't let go something of the dunya that is in our heart. I don't say that we're in the dunya. We're in the life. We have to work. We have to do things. We have to go to the store. We have to take care of our families. We have to go here. We have to go there. We have to do things. We have to pay bills. But the dunya that we're talking about, the zuhud that the Salaf were referring to, is not allowing the zinat to dunya, the beauty of the dunya, to get in your heart. Because what results from that is that you begin to negate the blessing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. You begin to think that you have nothing because everybody else has something else. They have a new truck, they have a new car, they're in the mall all the time, they have the nicest gear, they have new shoes, they have this. Oh, mashallah, so-and-so has 3 wives. Why can't I have 3 wives? Oh, he married a wife like this. Oh, this one has this. Oh, so-and-so, she has such a nice husband. He's handsome. He has wealth. He's this. He's from such and such country. He speaks Arabic. He does this. Or so-and-so is a businessman. Whatever the case may be, we get caught up in what everyone else has. And this shows a shortcoming in our heart and our man. So we get attached in this world, and then we begin to sin. So, for example, the one who becomes envious and the one who is greedy about other people's wealth, well, then they're not satisfied with their wealth, and they'll begin to do muharramat to get wealth. Maybe they'll take a riba loan because everybody else in the community has a house. Why can't I have a house? So I'm going to take a riba loan and I'm going to get a house. Oh, they upgraded their house. They threw away all their furniture. Let me upgrade my house and throw away my furniture. And my husband needs to come correct and bring the money in and buy whole new furniture. Okay? So we begin to allow that to consume us, and then we begin to do the baramat to get it. So as I said, maybe the people will take riba loans. They take usury interest so that way they can get a house. So that way they can buy the new car, so that way they can get the new furniture, deck out the home, so they can do all of these other things to keep up with the Joneses and the Smiths and the Muhammads and the Fatimas and everybody else. They want to keep up with them. And al-haf ala taqallil. That's what Imam an-Nawawi said in his chapter. We've just got, it shows you the fiqh of these great imams. Their fiqh, the fiqh is on a whole nother level. We could study what Imam an-Nawawi said in his title, and we don't even have to get to anything else, and that would be sufficient for a whole lecture. That shows you the fiqh of these imams, these great imams of the Sunnah. That's why we always have to respect the Salaf as-Salih. We always have to respect the Salaf, because so many people now turn you away from the Salaf. They want you to listen to this one and that one and this one, who are all on bid'ah and khurafat. They're calling you to Jahannam. Wallah, they're calling you to Jahannam, a lot of those people. Even if it looks good, even if they have 1 million hits and 1 million followers, Wallah, some of these people call you to Jahannam, wa'iyadhan billah min dhalika. It'd be better to suffice yourself with a little, but on the minhaj and the methodology of the Salaf of this ummah, those people who began with the ru'us of the Salaf, the ru'us of Ahl Sunnah, which is the Sahaba, radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een. So it suffice yourself with what they suffice with. Wallah, suffice yourself with what they suffice with. May Allah bless us to suffice ourselves with what the Sahaba to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een, what they suffice with. So Imam an-Nawawi, he said, وَهَثَلَ تَقَلُّلْ. He said in the encouragement to have little. Look at the trend now. What's going on is a new trend. Minimalism. And I like that. I love it. Use your I believe the concept is basically, if you have a small place that you occupy, whether it's a room, that you don't need a lot of objects. This is something khair. And that's something Islam kind of teaches us when we look at the nusus and we look at how the Salaf were. To have that minimalism is khair. But we do it in a respect regarding ibadah. They do it, it's a trend, and they find some value in it. They see the wisdom, but that wisdom, they'll find it in Islam too if they look. So this is the trend. But this is what the Salaf used to encourage, to be minimal. You don't need a lot. You don't need a lot in this dunya. If you can suffice yourself with that and be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will increase. So yuzidannakum. Allah will increase you. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala will increase you. Wa alaykum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we find that shows the shukr. So that's what the mu'min should be, because Allah will increase you if you can suffice. And just think, if you suffice yourself and you're happy with your little space that has what you need in there, and you can manage your space. Now, exactly, the materialism is killing us spiritually. Exactly. If you can manage that and you are sufficing yourself with minimalism and that which is sufficient, you're showing shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will be able to repel the shaitan and his troops and the evil of your desires more. You will have more ability to do that. Why? Because as I said, a lot of that materialism is the cause for our sins. People steal to keep up with the other people. People kill to keep up with the other people. People use drugs to keep up with the old people. People look at the muharramat and in doing zina and stuff because they're not satisfied and they want to do what the other people are doing. They want that. So they can't suffice themselves, so they have to do it haram. Or they think they have to do it haram. They're fulfilling their desires, chasing their desires, that dunya, instead of restraining themselves and being patient upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed them with, and striving and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sufficiency with that. And then he said, and the fadl of faqr. He said the superiority of being poor. That's the Salaf. Some of them, they looked at that as superior, as being superior to be poor, because they knew they had a better chance at Jannah. They would be less polluted with the dunya, and they would have more time to study Islam and do khair. Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my Habib from Abcake. May Allah bless you and preserve you and all the work you're doing. And may Allah protect all the Muslims there in Saudi and preserve and guide the leaders everywhere. I mean, from amongst the Muslims. Now, so there's actually a fadl. I don't say we wish for poverty, but if we look at the Salaf as-Salih and we look at a lot of the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een, there were many who were poor and they were happy because they were in the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were getting knowledge. They spent their time learning about the deen, because the light of the deen, when your heart is fulfilled with iman, this is what we all want. If our heart is fulfilled with iman, you're not tripping and worried about the dunya. You don't care that so-and-so has this and that. Oh, 50 Cent has this many cars. Oh, 69, what's the youngster, 6'9", Trey, whatever his name is. He got this, he got that. He's only 16 or he's 20. You know, you're not worried about that. You're not keeping up with them. You're sufficing with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala says, Kitabi al-Kareem, أعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب وله وَزِينَةُ وَتَفَاخَرُوا بَيْنَكُمْ وَتَكَاثُرُوا فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَأَوْلَادِ. Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala says, في كتاب الكريم. And know, so this is in the imperative form. He says, know that verily the life of this world is play, lie, and it is just like vain enjoyment, just like a waste. And wazinatun watafakhrun, and it has been beautified for us. There's no doubt it's beautified because we love those things in the dunya. We love to have nice cars. Who doesn't? Who doesn't want nice clothes? Who doesn't want the nice house? Who doesn't want the house with the beach next to it? And the sand they can walk on so they get grounded. Who doesn't want this and want that? There's nothing wrong with wanting that, but it's the desiring that and taking it into your heart. That if you don't get it, you find dissatisfaction, and that you spend all of your time and a significant portion of your time with that over deferring the life of this world. And وَتَفَاخُرٌ بَيْنَكُمْ, and being proud because people compete, subhanAllah. All of us know it from various different cultures, how the people in those specific cultures, how they compete. They compete with one another for different objects. Oh yeah, so-and-so, he's just got a new truck. So the people, the way they compete, and sometimes hasad or envy results in that. And that's because of that love of the dunya. Instead of putting it in perspective and wanting good for them and wanting good for everyone, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, and not coveting the dunya. وَتَكَاثُرُوا فِي الْأَمْوَالِ, and piling up of wealth. That people, they compete to pile up wealth. And my beloved brother can know that we had many colleagues, and some of them from particular areas that disbelieved in Allah. They worshipped mal. I know there are people I knew personally who really worshipped wealth. That if they would have lost their wealth, there were certain individuals that we could talk about that disbelieved in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that all they had, because they didn't have any iman, is they believed and they worshiped their wealth. They talked about how many hundreds and thousands of pounds, or maybe £1 million that they got. Get a house in London, get a house in Leicestershire, get a house in this one and this one, and piling up wealth. All they could talk about daily is the Bitcoin and the market, and it's doing this and it's doing that. But none of that will benefit you. And that piling of wealth will actually destroy you. And how many people have killed themselves because of wealth? Either the wealth itself killed them because they stressed, or they used it and they got involved with things that caused their death, or trying to get the wealth killed them. So it shows us that we have to put everything in perspective and not covet this dunya. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says في كتابه الكريم زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says زين للناس. It has been beautified for the people. It's from your fitrah that these things have been beautified. Majority of the people in the world, it's very few people who actually, maybe at a young age or whatever, for whatever reason, are not consumed to a greater or lesser extent. Zuyina linnas, it's been beautified for us. Shahawat, to love your desires. That's why it's your desires. And why you love it. If it was repulsive, you wouldn't do it. If the muharramat, a lot of it was repulsive, we wouldn't even go near it. But it's because there's a little bit of things we love in it. People commit zina not because they just hate it and it smells and it's this and it's horrible. No, they do it because they have it goes with their desires. Your natural desire is to procreate, and as men to have women and love women. That's your fitrah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with that fitrah. But we have to control it. We have to put it in Islamic perspective. And that's why it has been beautified for us. Zuyyina linnas hubb shahawat. It has been beautified for people, their desires, the love for their desires. Hubb shahawat min nisa, from the women. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the first thing was the women. Min nisa, and that's for the men. It's the women. Min nisa wal banin, and children. You know, a lot of people love to have many children. Oh, I want so many children to do this, and I want this and that and the other. But now the trend is different, especially in the West and really around the world. A lot of people are kind of holding back in even amongst the Muslims, on having children. But that is, throughout most history, having a lot of children has been something great, of great status in a lot of cultures. In most cultures, if not all cultures in the past, that was something very important, to have a lot of children, and especially sons to carry on your name and your legacy, and on and on and on. Those things have been beautified for us, because the people will take that to such an extent. Well, they'll do the haram for their children. They'll do a haram to get the children. They will, they love that, because that's what they covet. They're not coveting the hereafter. They're not coveting what they need to love, which is Allah Azza wa Jal and His rewards, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are so many ayat that talk about the deception of the dunya, and about those people piling up their wealth. You know, al-hakamu takathur hatta zumurtumul muqabir, that the ones who they pile up what? They pile up in the dunya, their wealth. They're competing until you visit the graves. Until you visit the graves. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, because I saw it as a question, I'll address it since it's in the context of what we're talking about right now. Someone said, is women and children, is that from loving the dunya and stuff? It's when it's not put in perspective, meaning if you are covering women, and you to such an extent you're doing haram, or you have women in your lives that only call you to be away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, discourage you from the path of the believers, discourage you from the good things, from your deen, and distract you and engaging so much, then those things that distracts you, and that can be a test for you instead of a compliment. But if you have a righteous wife or righteous wives and righteous children that help you to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then those are the greatest things you can have in the dunya. Those are the greatest ni'am from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have in the dunya. But if you have children and they're just a test for you, I don't know, is my child in the gang today? Is this one gonna get shot dead today? Is this one going to prison today? Is my daughter got a boyfriend today? These kind of things cause you stress. They hurt your heart. They destroy you. So that's when they are a test. And then they can actually become your enemy. Wa'iyadun billah. Not that you're making takfir of them in this, but making your enemy, and that they are opposing you and everything good, because you're trying to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and draw nearer to Him. And there's so much to say about the dunya, but I just wanted to mention two hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: جالس رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على المنبر وجلسنا حوله فقال: إن مما أخاف عليكم من بعدي ما يفتح عليكم من زهرة الدنيا وزينتها. متفق عليه. This is a hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. Nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, as was narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam jalasa ala minbar. He was sitting on the minbar. He was sitting on the minbar. And we were sitting around him. Can you imagine being in the company of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and looking to your left and looking to your right, and the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum majma'in were around you? And you're sitting taking knowledge and benefit for your soul from the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's we can't conceive of it, but alhamdulillah, ni'ma min ni'amillah. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, so the Sahaba were sitting around him, he said, verily, what I am most afraid for you after me is the opening up for you the beauty, the flower of the dunya. You know, this beauty of the dunya. Wazinatuha, and its its beautification. Those are the beauty of it and the deception of it. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that was one of the things he was most fearful of his ummah for. That we would gain the wealth look at this. Look at the disparity in wealth amongst the ummah. Some countries have so much money, it's unbelievable. And هذا النعمة من نعم الله. As long as they use it for the spread of khair, for worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making ta'zeem of tawheed in their country, calling the people to good, commanding the good and forbidding the evil, then that's a ni'mah for them. But if they have that wealth and they use it for muharramat and opening up muharramat, then that will be a test and a fitna and a trial and a harm for them in their society. So the Prophet ﷺ was fearful for his ummah because the reality is most of the ummah, most of Bani Adam, not just our ummah, but most of humanity, when they get wealth, they forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they do disobedience to Allah, and they compete in piling up more. Think about all these wealthy people. Now, I'm going to, just a little contemporary stuff. All these wealthy people who got in fitna, major wealth. Let's think about your boy Bill Cosby. Okay? Old Bill was doing a lot of bad stuff over the years. He had wealth, he had fame, he had a name, he had everything. He didn't have Iman though. And that stuff caught him. Finally, all of those rapes or whatever you want to call it, they caught up to him. And then your boy, the other one, Weinberg, these people had the top of the dunya, the films, but all of the evil that he was doing was getting compiled against him. It didn't escape Allah, and Allah has given him humility in this life. And what about the hereafter? They were at the top of the world, they're top of their game, top actor. And Bill Cosby was able to buy, he was going to buy NBC or buy whole stations. The things he could have did for raising up his people, lifting them up out of poverty and good, whatever he may have done from sadaqah, I don't know. But it's all, he's destroyed. He's an old man in prison now, just waiting to die. In all that wealth, it didn't benefit him. Zuyina linnas hubba shahwat. And his shahwat destroyed him. Giving drugs to women so they can put him to sleep and commit his shahwa. And then the other one, Weinstein, and another one who's also like Weinstein, but he had a ranch out here in New Mexico. And he used to bring all the young girls for all the politicians. How many politicians are out and they don't want to get exposed? This guy had to die in prison. He thought he had everything. He was a billionaire, but he could not keep his hands out of the pie. He could not keep his hands off of young girls. He could have had whatever he wanted from models and this and this and this from women of age and stayed out of trouble. But the shahwat, it destroys you. It humiliates you, and it will destroy you in this life as well as the next. Because those guys more than likely will die on kufr and then have all that evil that compiled on it. وَعِيَاذٍ بِاللَّهِ وَإِيَّاكُمْ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. So you see how the dunya is so deceptive, and so many people who we thought and who were so big in our lifetime, and we've seen them fall. They were so big because the mizan, the scale was the dunya. How are they in the dunya? Oh, they're the most famous musician. Oh, they're the most wealthiest musician. Oh, he's the best fighter. Oh, he's this. Oh, he's that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gives status and raises up an honor to whomsoever he pleases, and he belittles whomsoever he pleases. SubhanAllah. So it shows us that we can't get too attached to this dunya. The last hadith I want to mention is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which is also Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu narrated. He said, قال أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الدنيا حلاوة خضرة وإن الله تعالى مستخلفكم فيها فلينظر كيف تعملون فاتقوا الدنيا واتقوا النساء أول في بني إسرائيل كان في النساء رواه مسلم. It's a hadith in Sahih Muslim. The hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, verily the dunya, this life, this worldly life, is like a beautiful garden. Halwata khadira. It's like a beautiful, beautified garden. It's just beautiful because it's so enticing, all these things. This is what we see in front of our eyes. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى مُسْتَخْلِفُكُمْ فِيهِ. And Allah ta'ala establishes you in it. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you the chance to be the Khalifa, to be the ruler of the world, and establishes us in this world. Even if we don't have that kind of power, He establishes on the earth. He gives us businesses, He gives us lifestyles, He gives us this and that and the other, to where we can be doing things in this dunya. And we can be doing good, or we can do muharramat. And that's why then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَلْيَنْظُرْ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ. And He looks to see what you will do. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala establishes on the earth, in this beautified earth, to see what we will do. It's a test. And then He sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, فَاتَّقُوا الدُّنْيَا وَاتَّقُوا النِّسَاءَ فَإِنَّ أَوْلَ فِتْنَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل كَانَ فِي النِّسَاءِ. He said, in fear, therefore, fear the dunya. Therefore, fear the dunya, because He's established here. He's established us here in the earth to see what we're going to do. Therefore, fear the dunya. Ittaqu dunya. Fear the dunya. Don't let the trappings of the dunya consume your heart, tear you away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, distort your reality, because it can lead you to kufr. As Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah said, al-ma'asi baridu kufr. Sinfulness is a means to disbelief. Because a person can get so caught up in what everyone's doing and chasing the dunya and involving themselves in so many various types of sins that they end up even leaving the deen. We've all seen many people who've actually left the religion. And I mean, left it on their tongues, not just in their actions or whatever, who just said, I'm not going to be a Muslim anymore, or they go off and things like this. And a lot of times it's the deception of the dunya. And they have been twisted and deceived by the dunya. So the Prophet ﷺ said, ittaqu dunya, so fear the dunya, wattaqu nisa, and fear the women. Limadha? Why? Then he says, فَنَا أَوْلَ فِتْنَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل كَانَ فِي النِّسَاءِ. He says, because verily the first fitna, the first trial that befell the children of Israel was the women. Ruwahu Muslim. So it shows us, ahabati fillah, it shows you the dangers of this dunya and the importance of striving to have zuhud. Imam bin Uthaymeen, rahmatullahi alayhi, he mentioned, he said, az-zuhud and yada ma la yanfa'ahu fil akhirah. That's a beautiful, concise little definition. And he mentioned some other things. He says, فَالَّذِي لَا يَنْفَعُهُ لَا يَخَذُ بِهِ. طيب. So bin Uthaymeen mentions about zuhud. He says, this asceticism, if you will, it is leaving that which does not benefit you for the akhirah. It's leaving, zuhud is leaving those things in this life which will not benefit you at all for the hereafter. That is showing asceticism. Because that means within that context of that definition, that means some of the mubahat. That means some of the things that are permissible for you to do and enjoy, but because they don't have any benefit for the hereafter, then you leave it. So that shows us, Alhamdulillah, that is the real zuhud, and that's what our Salaf Salih had. And then he mentioned the concept of al-wara. Al-wara, I'm not sure how we might say as a term. If we say zuhud is asceticism, al-wara is kind of like a humility, maybe, like a humbleness and a humility. And it's defined as an yada'a al-insan al-insanu ma yudurruhu fil akhirah. So a difference with zuhud. So al-wara, it's for a person to leave off that which will harm him in the hereafter. So there's a difference between zuhud and al-wara. Al-wara is leaving off those things that will harm your akhirah. And a zuhud is leaving off those things which have no benefit for your hereafter. So maybe zuhud is another level of wara. Zuhud is maybe another level of wara, because a zuhud is mainly leaving the muharramat. So this was the definition that Imam bin Uthaymeen mentioned. And he also mentions just about in general those explanations about the destructiveness of the dunya and not letting it be a source of destroying you. And the main premise is you don't want the dunya and this worldly life to deceive you about your hereafter, to take you away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and draw you to destructive behavior and to destructive concepts. What do I mean by this? Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he mentioned that that there are two ways, perhaps you could say, the shayateen affect us or come to us, and that is through our shahwat, and also through shubahat. A shahwat, ahabatillah, means through your desires. So those are mat. That's through your shahwa, your shahwat, your just doing all kind of sinful practices out of your desires, following your desires. And the shubahat refers to the way that the shaitan can deceive you about your aqidah, entice you to do bid'ah. Oh, this sounds like a nice way to worship Allah and come closer. Let's celebrate this. Let's celebrate this holiday. Let's do the Prophet ﷺ's birthday. Let's do this, because let's do Christmas, but we're not celebrating Christmas. We just want to give gifts. That's what some Muslim families say. And sometimes whole cultures in some of the Muslim countries, they celebrate Christmas without allegedly worshiping Jesus, alayhi salatu wasalam. What has happened to the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam? So it shows us how dangerous the shubahat can come, the doubt can come to you, and you even leave the deen and you distort your aqidah, or you just leave the religion totally. Very, very dangerous. I've known people, may Allah guide us in them, who will argue all up and down about Jews and Christians being disbelievers. They'll say, no, they're not disbelievers. They're our brothers, and they maybe are going to go to paradise too. We don't know. All kind of weird, twisted arguments that have no basis. Wala fi kitab, wala fi sunnah. And on top of that, they totally contradict the book of Allah and the message of Allah and the ijma of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I didn't even say the ijma of the scholars. I didn't say the consensus of the scholars. I said the consensus of the Ummah. Even the general Muslims in the past, throughout history, knew that anyone who is not a Muslim is not a Muslim. They disbelieve in Allah, wa Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they will be of the people of Jahannam. Wa iyadun billah wa iyyakum min an-nar. So, Abati billah, I think we'll stop there, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with ikhlas, with tabat, and forgive us of our many sins, and bless us all to benefit from the remainder of Ramadan through qiyam and our siyam, and protect us from becoming lazy, because this is the time we can become lazy. And May Allah Ta'ala bless us to spend in his cause and increase our risk so we can continue to spend in his cause. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. So there was a couple questions, and I'll try to scroll through and find the greatest patience and work slow with it hard because of the strength. Real Arab leaders backing Bashar. All praises belong to Allah. So I don't know. Some people are having a nice political discussion. Maybe you should go to the Rand Forum or Brookings Institute, and they can get more insight about some of these issues. But right here, we're just talking about trying to save ourselves from the fire and how to cure ourselves from the deception of the dunya. To cure the problems in the dunya is to believe in Yom Al-Qiyamah and remembering much. Next lecture should be about Yom Al-Qiyamah. So now be definitely having making dhikr in general and thinking about the hereafter, of course, and studying about the hereafter, and all of those things help us to draw nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and remember and prioritize our lives. Everything studying about Islam will help us with those things and help us to put things in perspective. I'm not attacking you myself. I hope they realize the error of the way. Assalamu alaikum, dearest dad. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless us and you. Hear me? So it looks like people are talking about Shia. Anyhow, it's that, of course, with regards to the sectarianism, that there are many different types. There are many different groups, and as the scholars mention, Ahl Sunnah tafawat wa Ahl Bid'ah tafawat, meaning the people of the Sunnah, they have different levels, and the people of Bid'ah, they have different levels. And there are many people. There are people who have, as the scholars mention, there are two types of Bid'ah. Bid'ah mukaffara wa bid'ah ghayr mukaffara. So there's bid'ah that takes you out of the fold of Islam, and there's bid'ah which does not, which is sinful, but it doesn't take you out of the fold of Islam. It just means a person practices bid'ah or has some bid'ah, or they are a mubtadi'ah. Taib. And with regards to Shiism as a religion, if you will, that there are those who hold beliefs that are totally outside the fold of Islam. Killing your, doing all this this Yom al-Huzn and beating themselves and bleeding and all this stuff. This is ghulu. But it's their takfir of the Sahaba, and they're thinking that their imams are infallible. This is where it takes you out of the fold of Islam, these kind of beliefs. Then there are those who do not believe those beliefs. There's many different, there's Zaydiyah, there is the Ashariya, which are those extreme ones we mentioned, and there's many gradations between them. So there are those that are Muslim, of course, like the Zaydiyah, like you find before in Yemen, but I think a lot of them have become Rafida now with the Holy movement and the propaganda from Iran. But you have gradations anyhow, and you deal with the people in accordance with their aqidah, as far as eating their dhabiha, as far as marriage, as far as all of those things. All of those masail, it depends, of course, on the i'tiqad, the creed of the individual that's being discussed. So obviously, if someone disbelieves in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and totally, like the mushriks, pagans and stuff, they're not even from Ahl Kitab. You can't even think about eating their meat. But the Jews and the Christians, the kosher meat you can eat. And the Christians that are practicing according to their faith, the biha and so forth, then you can eat their meat. And even with that, there's a lot of controversy, and in contemporary times especially. But however, those are the ones Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in his book, as far as we can marry and so forth. But those who leaves Islam, or someone who leaves being from Ahl Sunnah in general, in a general sense, and they become an Ithna Ashariya, they begin to curse the Sahaba, and they, do the muta, and they, practice all their sha'air, especially the ones that are kufriya, then and ta'zeem of their graves and their saints, and ta'zeem of their imams, thinking they're infallible. This person now has went to a level of shirk. They're no longer in the fold of Islam, and you would not be able to eat their meat. Their dhabihah would not be halal. It's not like a Christian or a Jews, because they have went to the deen. In essence, a very serious issue is your aqeedah, your creed, what you believe. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And may Allah tabarak wa ta'ala bless with iman. Ameen. But can give us to continue our worship towards Allah and not fall back after Ramadan? Very excellent question and very relevant. So this is one that we all ponder. But I think one of the signs that you had tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you had that success from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your fasting, and that it was accepted, is that you don't return back to those same sins and same things that you were doing prior to Ramadan, those same sins. So I think it's by maintaining a regime of ibadah, keeping your iman up, that now you've engaged with the Quran, you need to continue that. That is imperative, because what happens after Ramadan is most of us, we make hajr of the Quran. I don't say that we read the Quran. Sometimes I say a lot of people make hajr. They don't read the Quran at all. And if they do, maybe it's then. So it's Monday, Thursdays. Also, right after Ramadan, Sitta min Shawwal is coming up. Men sama Ramadan, من صام ستة من شوال كان كصيام الدهر كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So I've forgotten the hadith exactly, the left, but what means whoever fasts the 6 days of Shawwal, it is as if they fasted the whole year. So you don't want to miss that Sitta min Shawwal, and you just want to keep your ibadah up in general. And I say continue on in your studies. Those things help to increase your iman. When you're listening to reminders about Allah, and you're around good company, be around good people. Don't just indulge yourself, right your own delicious habits. So that means if you're into watching certain things, and I'm not even talking haram things, I'm just talking about things that you enjoy. Maybe you like certain sports. Don't just jump right back in and go full board, but try to manage yourself. So it's about managing yourself in general with all of those things, in the dunya that are mubah, in order to keep in high iman. And that goes back to the difference between zuhud and al-wara. Al-wara meaning to leave off the haramat, totally distance yourself from those things which are haram. Whereas the zuhud is leaving off those things even that are the mubahat, those things which are lawful, but they don't remind you of Allah. They don't give you any benefit. No benefit for the hereafter. So that is what a zahid does. So the more that you can do that, then the better you're going to be in general for those things. Christians who believe in Jesus are mushrik. So someone asked a question about who the people who worship Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. No doubt, this is one of the greatest forms of shirk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to them as Ahl Kitab and as disbelievers. So all mushriks are disbelievers. And perhaps not all disbelievers are mushriks. Meaning, let's give you an example. So don't go saying I invented a new aqidah. So for example, there's no doubt in a general sense, the people from Ahl Kitab, the Jews and the Christians, they're mushriks in that sense. But Allah also distinguishes between the two. For example, in Surah Al-Bayyinah, لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين. So he said, the people, لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب, the people from Ahl Kitab, meaning the Jews and the Christians, wa mushrikeen, and those polytheist. They, didn't deviate until Hattetet. So this shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes some distinguishment, although they're lawful for me. Maybe they say this. This is called they disbelieve, but they have not committed shirk. So they are not necessarily mushrik, but they have disbelieved. So this is how you could say that all mushriks are disbelievers, but perhaps not all disbelievers are mushrik. Fahamt? Inshallah ta'ala. Just asking, is marrying mushrik not too clever for the children? End of the World has made a few videos on this. Look at the recent upload. TV films. What should we make dua for during Laylatul Qadr? Make dua for whatever you want. Make dua for everything that you want. Everything that you want. Make dua about whatever you want. And then there are special duas that are mentioned. For example, when Aisha radiallahu anha, she asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about Laylatul Qadr, if she got Laylatul Qadr, what should she supplicate? And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, say, Allahumma anta afuan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. O Allah, you are the oft-pardoning, and you love to pardon, so please pardon me. So that is the best dua to make for Laylatul Qadr. And then also dua in general for the things that you want and need. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ said, many children, many people in the modern world limit themselves. The risk, how do we reconcile? Well, that's what the people do. If people want to do that, that's on them. But we know from what the Nusus show us that the children can be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yarzaqahum. He gives them the rizq, and he will give them the rizq with and without you. And they can be a source of rizq. Likewise, people also hold the same argument when it comes to marriage, with either getting married to one wife or marrying multiple wives, that they say, no, because I can't afford it. And I do say that you should be wise. Don't be blind and so forth, that if you have no means and you say, hey, I'm just going to marry another wife. I've got a wife. She's struggling. She doesn't have anything. I can't afford to take care of her, but let me get another wife to increase my risk. I don't say that that's from logic. And I don't say that that's from hikmah related to the nusus of the deen, because what it shows us, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered when he said to the youth, he said, Ya ma'ashara shabab, man istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, and he was addressing the youth, he said, oh youth, those from amongst you who can marry, those from amongst you who have the means to marry, then they should marry. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he ordered the youth and encouraged to marry. But he also he said, "Men istata'a minkum al-ba'a." Those from amongst you who have the means. Like, the scholars differ over the word al-ba'a. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Men istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj." Whoever has the ba'a, then he should marry. So some of the scholars say al-ba'a means the ability, the physical prowess, meaning that he can function, akramakumullah, in the bed to be able to take care of a woman and try to please her. Some of the scholars said that. That's what al-ba'a is. Another group of the scholars said that it is the financial means. It is the financial means. So I believe, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, that the gem between the two is the best way to understand that. That a person should have some physical ability, of course, if he wants to marry another wife, or to marry a wife in general, should have desires and stuff like this, and he should have some means. Because, as a father, I wouldn't give my daughter to someone who doesn't have means, who says, yeah, I'm broke, but, I just want to marry your daughter. I live in the masjid. I live under the bridge. No, it's not really probably going to go down that way. And I think most fathers agree. Now, there are those unique situations, but still, people want people who can take care of their children. It doesn't mean that they have to be wealthy, they have to have this, they have to have that, but they do want a level of something, so that she can live a life to a greater or lesser extent to how she was accustomed in her household, if possible, or at least something she's able to deal with. And Allah knows best. So people are debating about that. You guys can debate all you want. Many children, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow, those are just some of the things. We ask Allah the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Brothers, the meat in USA halal, because I'm in Canada, I've been back and forth, even though my scholar says it's halal, but people keep on putting doubt in my heart. Don't let the people put doubt in your heart. If your scholars, if they're trustworthy scholars, and they say that meat is halal, they are, from a shari'i point of view, that they're looking at it according to the nusus, not their desires, you trust them, then don't let the people put doubt into you with regards to that. Myself, my view is that I don't say that all the people in the UK, in America, in Sweden, in Canada are Ahl Kitab. So I don't go to McDonald's and eat their meat. I don't go to Wendy's and eat their meat. I don't go to any place that's not halal and eat their meat except kosher. I'll eat a kosher turkey. I'll eat kosher hot dogs. I'll eat kosher stuff because the Yahud, the Jews in general, are very vigilant and have high standards for maintaining their kosher food. So that I will eat. If I don't have the access to halal meat, then I will get that kosher, the kosher hot dogs. And I only recently discovered, because my sons love it, is that you can find at Walmart, you can find kosher hot dogs, the Hebrew brand. So we bought a bunch of those and made barbecues. So that's a ni'mah min ni'amillah. But I do not go to Wendy's, and I don't believe it's halal. And I don't believe it's halal to go to McDonald's. I mean, eating their meat. I'm not saying eating their fish sandwiches or their fries, even though that stuff is garbage. But I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, or drinking their milkshakes. I'm talking about their meat. That I don't eat it. I don't eat Denny's meat. I don't eat all those restaurants. No, I don't believe that's halal. But some people hold that view, and I don't make strong inkar of them, but I wouldn't want any of my family, and I would probably advise my companions, at least tell them, hey, I don't do it. It's up to you. It's between you and your Lord, but I don't believe it's halal. That the people, the McDonald's is Ahl Kitab. Yeah. So that's a long discussion and discourse. Now, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hayyakum Allah.